Ovid was a poet who lived in Rome sometime around 43 BC. I believe he lived until 17 AD, or the Common Era. And he wrote about the goddess Ceres, declaring the goddess knew that her daughter had been taken and tore her hair into utter disorder and repeatedly struck her breasts with the palms of both hands. With her daughter's location a mystery still, she approaches the whole earth as ungrateful, unworthy her gift of grain crops, and Sicily more than the others, where she has discovered the proof of her loss. And so it was here that her fierce hand shattered the earth-turning plows, here that the farmers and cattle perished alike, and here that she bade the plowed fields default on their trust by blighting the seeds in their keeping. Sicilian fertility, which had been everywhere famous, was given the lie when the crops died as they sprouted, now ruined by too much heat, and now by too heavy a rain. Stars and winds harmed them, and the greedy birds devoured the seed as it was sown. The harvest of wheat was defeated by thorns and darnels and unappeasable grasses. What he's writing about there is the story of Ceres' daughter. The daughter of Ceres was the queen of the underworld. Her name was Proserpina, and according to legend, she'd been stolen away and taken by Hades to be his bride. And it was Ceres' grief which led her to bring the world into a place of winter and barrenness. But there was an agreement which allowed her daughter to depart from the underworld and for a period of time visit the overworld once again. And so it came to be that there were seasons. A season of winter when the daughter of Ceres was abiding in the underworld, and a season of plenty when in celebration she would return to visit her familiar kin. And of course, here in Anno 1800, sorry I said that, Anno 117, we are building our own little version of the Roman Empire, sometime just a little while after the life of Ceres. And our patron goddess on the island is Ceres, the goddess of fertility and abundant harvests. So what we need to do is expand our territory onto a third island, which is what we're going to endeavor to do today. And the reason for that is because we need to meet the needs of our plebeian resident class. And to do that, we're going to need some new resources. So the goal is to create these vases, amphorae they're called. An elegant neck and richly decorated terracotta to show off your wealth and your wine. Well, to do that, we're going to need some resin. And resin is going to be a resource we collect on our third island, as well as olives, which I believe I do not have an island which currently offers those fertilities. So we are going to be doing what we can to save up enough money to buy this third island. It'll be 65,000 denarii to purchase that piece of land. We've got 2 ships in our fleet, our original flagship and 1 ship of war which we purchased. And I suppose it might be in our interest to purchase another one, because I'm sure we're going to need as many ships as we can get soon. And I'd imagine we might encounter pirates at some point. So we're going to go ahead and commission a 3rd ship. Right now we're buying weapons to fill up our storage with them. Purchase price is 74 per set of weapons. Not terrible, really. 14,000 coins though, and we're going to need to probably be doing quite a bit of expansion before we're able to really earn our way to the 3rd island. Our first island is named Cyrodiil after the capital of Tamriel and the Elder Scrolls, being that I like to make things a bit about Elder Scrolls if I get a chance. And our second island that we have begun to build on, just a couple of lavender fields, wherever they are. We call this island Daggerfall, in honor of the capital of Glenumbra, also in Elder Scrolls. Thinking we'll probably call the next island Pyrock, in honor of the Breton cities. But for right now, it looks like we have a riot, and that is not ideal. So let's see what we can do to restore order. We can build military buildings, but I don't think that's what we want. I think we want something more along the lines of a police station. Here we have the sanctuary, the grammaticus, a market, a tavern. And that's what we're looking for. We're looking for the Custodia. Under the City Watch tab, the Custodia will have an effect of 2 happiness on every building within its range. So we're going to put it right here in the middle of town. And then we'll connect it to some roads. Being the good governor I am, I took some time to report a couple of the bugs I discovered while I was playing the game last time. Nothing major, just a few small bugs that I have noticed. But all in all, I still stand by my testament that this may well be the best city builder, the most polished, deep, and rewarding city building experience ever made.
Some of the boys from the Collegium found some choice amphorae.
As painful as it appears, a touch of civil unrest is normal in a growing city. Well, good to know. Good to know that I shouldn't feel too bad about the angry people who occasionally cause trouble and pillage my town. You know, it's interesting, being the agnostic, middle of the road kind of a person that I am, how we talk about social evils, you know, like the trouble of people getting violent and doing disruptive things and stuff like that. And of course, we don't want people burning down our cities in real life. That's not a good thing. But when you look through history at all of the boisterous and troublesome times which have plagued humanity, it's really not all that crazy in the big scheme of things. To think that sometimes there's crazy times, times which try the soul, when people argue about things and fight about things and sometimes even do things that are violent or crazy or unhinged, you know? Like, it's kind of crazy and it's kind of beautiful. You think about how history is this chaotic and terrible thing, and yet it's also this really beautiful thing all at the same time. It's so easy to take things personally, you know, when they're happening in real life all around you and you're part of it on some level. But if you step back a little bit and you think about it, it doesn't really seem like the world is all that bad. I mean, if you can look back and see the beauty of something like the Roman Empire, a deeply flawed nation that had slaves and human rights abuses and questionable access to public amenities. I mean, I guess they had indoor plumbing, but, you know, not everybody did, and it certainly was pretty primitive in those times compared to what we have today. But we managed to look at those times and say, wow, look at what they did. Look how amazing it was. We can celebrate the glory and the greatness of it all. And we could maybe even look back on it and say, I wish I could have been there to see the beauty of it all, to see the glory of it all. And then we look at our own times and we're surrounded by such incredible things, really. We think to ourselves, well, you know, the best times for civilization must be somehow behind us because we live in troubled times, or at least so we think. But maybe times are not quite so troubled as we think. Maybe there's a little bit more beauty in the world than we are tempted to think when we're in a more cynical mood. Stuff you think about when you're building a great Roman city in the greatest Anno game that we've ever seen. Same thing with gaming. You know, people talk so much about how gaming isn't what it used to be and, you know, all that kind of stuff. And it's probably true. I mean, all our games used to be rendered in 16 colors. And now we have, you know, 4K and our 5090s and all of that stuff. So, you know, you can always look back on history and say, oh, wasn't all that great. But you probably wouldn't want to go back, would you? That's really what kind of puts it all into perspective. Anyways, building a bunch more houses here has really given our income a bit of a boost, which is great. We don't want to take forever to be able to expand. Let's take a look at our production and see, do we have any problems here? Well, yes, indeed. Looks like we have a few things that are underproducing, but I think that's not really because we don't have enough production capacity. It's because our storages are full in some cases. So not to worry. I don't see anything that's really a deficit, with the exception of these two commodities that we don't have the ability to produce yet. So really all we need to do is continue to expand here, and then as soon as we can, save up some money and start building up our new islands. It's going to be nice whenever this game expands and adds more skins and stuff. It's not to say that it's not adequately diverse, but by the time Anno 1800 had reached its maturity, you had so many different building skins and appearances and things like that that you could use to make a city look unique. It'll be nice when we get more of those decorative features added into the game through DLC, or maybe even some user-made custom content. It's definitely a game that has had a really good modding community. I mean, not at the level of Cities Skylines, but certainly a very good modding community that's done a lot of incredible things to make the Anno games stand the test of time, even beyond what the official expansions have been able to do. So we have 20,000 denarii. Looks like it's going to take us a little while to get to where we need to be. So we'll go ahead and let that money pile up. Keep on working on our savings, and just before long we should be where we need to be. After taking a bit of a break, we are now back, and we've built 4 ships, and we've saved up 72,000 denarii, which is excellent. So now we're going to go over to our newly discovered island here and start to build there.
What could you possibly require?
And that'll cost us 65,000 coins. An island you control has no patron god. Yep, I got that. So we will be establishing a patron deity soon. But first, the reason why we came is for the purpose of growing olives and harvesting resin. So resin, it's a raw material. And it looks like it's actually harvested from trees. So resin is not going to be particularly difficult for us to gather. We just do a resin factory there, a resin tapper. So I guess it's like a syrup from trees. And we'll create an olive farm. We finished researching latrines. That is some good news right there. Imagine the joy of being able to experience a restroom for the first time. You know, these are things you don't think about how great they are until you don't have them. So we're gonna need some wood and some tiles to get started here.
We stand waiting.
Also, unfortunately, I lost one of my ships. It was attacked. I think it was attacked by pirates. Quite possibly. And what do we have here?
Only one came home.
Ah,
I know not what befell the others.
this is one of my neighbors. He has a little fleet going on there. Hopefully he's not gonna try to attack me with his ships. I don't think so. That player does not seem to be very aggressive. But you never know. Ah, yes.
You possibly require.
Where did my ships go?
On my way to rank every port in the region.
Waiting for your decree.
I sent my ships to the wrong port. Supposed to come over here.
Festina Lente.
I kind of like hearing the voices of the characters in the game, at least for now. But at some point I might mute them. So we're gonna go ahead and load up
Salve, Praetor.
some timber.
Waiting for your decree. Salve, Praetor. Mariners, forward!
I've been recording this video in smaller segments, a little bit each day, because on a work night, I don't necessarily have the energy or the time or the desire to play the game for too long. So I might just play for, 20 minutes or something like that. And then I'll put the clips together and it'll all add up to maybe an hour or an hour and a half of playtime by the time it's all said and done. It's one of those things. I think you have to make sure that you're consistently doing things that you want to do, but you also kind of have to work within the constraints of, you know, how much energy you have and how much time you have. And, you know, everyone has some time for gaming. That's something I firmly believe. And I think it's short-sighted, really, to believe that you're too busy for something that's a bit fun. But all of that being said, though, life does have its obligations. It has its busyness. And sometimes you just don't have an endless wellspring of energy. And that's how I feel after a day of work. Especially if it's 12 hours of work. Not that my job is so very hard, it's just, you know, when you've been doing stuff that requires thinking about things, it's kind of hard to come home and then want to jump on the computer and spend a few more hours playing a game that involves thinking about things. Though I do think we're going to go ahead and change the sound settings here because I like listening to the music, but I really don't need to constantly hear the chatter. And I also think don't really need incident and combat music. We'll just let the ambient normal music play. And that's enough, because otherwise it just feels a little bit obnoxious, maybe. So, what are we doing here? We have to create the basic services that we're going to need to support our residents. So we'll do the tavern and the marketplace. And now we have a choice. Like, do we want to bring in the porridge and sardines from the mainland, or do we just want to make them domestically? And I'm thinking we'll just build this right here. Because we don't need to be exporting everything, because then you have to have more ships and all of that. So for the basics, I think it's simpler just to build your own farms on every island. So each island is a bit self-sufficient. That also helps you with wartime situations. If that ever becomes a thing, you don't have a situation where you have lost the ability to meet the needs of your people because your ships got attacked or something like that. Now we will do complex production chains for some of the more complex items, but porridge and work clothes are not the most complicated thing in the world, so. There we are. We now have a basic workforce established. Of course, we'll give this town a unique name. High Isle. We'll need a clay pit. I don't know. Yep. So we can make clay here in the river. Now I think all we need is a potter. What we want to do is create a trade route for olive oil and pottery. And since we have a few extra ships, I suppose we should probably give this new trade route an escort. Probably going to want to ramp up our production a little more. So we'll do one more resin tapper. I'm going to have to see about learning how to replant trees, though. The crazy thing about playing this game is it's been making me think about wanting to go play Assassin's Creed, because they're both Ubisoft games, and they're both set in that same sort of a time period. At least Assassin's Creed Origins is set in ancient Egypt. Anno 117, of course, as the name suggests, 117 years after Common Era. Well, Assassin's Creed Origins would have been set probably more like, I think, 40, 50 years BC. But it's all round about the same time. The prime of the Roman Empire and the final age of Egypt during the time of Cleopatra. I often think about how there's so much progress and beauty in some of the ideas portrayed in the deeply ancient times. The creation of writing and mathematics and public forums for discussion and study of ideas. There's just so much beauty that we lost when we allowed ourselves to become mired in the dark ages of superstition and myth. Not to say that all those old times were glorious, but there certainly were some elements of them that were pretty glorious. And I do wonder sometimes, you know, what's going to happen to us? Are we going to make our way ever forward to new and greater things? Or is our time coming to an end? Are we going to go through another dark age one of these days? Makes you wonder, you know? Well, anyways, I guess that's not for us to know or decide, is it? So, we're going to go down and look at our supply chains here. We have plenty of production of resin, plenty of production of amphora, so I'm guessing we can probably build another olive oil factory and another pottery factory. Because we're going to need to have enough resources to supply this island and the others. So this is going to be our first commercial supply chain, I guess. One of the things that's really, really different when it comes to playing Anno versus playing a game like Cities Skylines, it's that every single building just stands out as a meaningful thing, because there aren't any decorative buildings that don't serve a purpose. Every decoration serves some function to make your experience in the game a little bit better or a little bit different, and it makes the gameplay just a lot more purposeful. When I'm playing a game like Cities Skylines, what I find is after a while you start to feel like every building's about the same, every city block you build is about the same. There's not really any reason to be particularly worried about, you know, bulldozing a section of town to build a freeway. It doesn't really matter if there's traffic on the streets. It doesn't really make a great deal of difference what you do in the game, because most of the mechanics of the game are kind of superficial at a certain point. But in Anno it's different, because you can truly change the entire outcome of a play session just by investing in or neglecting a single resource. And that's pretty cool. So what I need here is wood, and I guess I will have to bring some timber from Cyrodiil. Because we have plenty of timber back home, so we will go get some and bring it back, so we don't have to wait. Besides, our main island is producing more wood than it's able to use, so our storage is getting full. Now, I would be tempted to do a supply chain bringing wood from one island to the other, but since I don't really need wood for anything other than stuff I'm building, like those are things I try to avoid. Because if you solve every problem with a shipping route, then after a while, you just have too many ships that are needing to be in operation for kind of redundant reasons. All right, so there we are. What do we got here? Not enough cultivation area. Oh, well, there we go. Our island, our new island, has a positive workforce balance, and we are now able to import quite a bit of resource back home, which should be a great step in the right direction as we try to modernize the capital city. Let's go back over and take a look at our plebeian residences. And there we have it. All of their needs are being met, which will be a significant benefit to our overall income. And as you can see, we are doing pretty well. 390 coins a minute. And our treasury's already back up to around 41,000 denarii. I don't know if you say denarii or denarii. I'm gonna have to look that one up. New island milestone reached. Well, there we are. But a ship is under attack. Let's go check it out. What do we got? Oh my goodness. Well, it looks like we successfully defeated the pirate ship. However, there's some flotsam there we want to probably get. That's the ship we sunk. It's kind of cool that the waypoint for ships is a trident. Oh, and we get a little bit of timber out of that. Our ships are damaged though, so let's see if we can build a ship repair crane. It looks like the ship repair crane has to be located on shoreline. We'll see about putting it right there. And I guess that we did have what we needed to build it. Just 1,000 coins, tiles, and timber. So, no trouble. Hopefully, these ships will repair themselves when they come back into port. Maybe what I need to do is move my repair crane, though, over here. That way when the boats come to drop off their shipments, they'll be within range of the repair crane. Now in Anno 1800, you could have the crane out in the middle of the water. Well, it doesn't look like the ships are actually damaged anymore. Maybe they... I wonder if it instantly repairs them. Like once they come into effect, it just auto repairs them. I'm gonna have to pay attention to that. In any case, we sunk our first pirate ship. We have, I believe, 4 ships. We have 5 ships. 5 ships total. And life seems like it is going well for us. Let's see what these folks have to say. Settlement request. Licia Ma wants to claim an island. Well, view island. I guess we'll let her settle that island because we haven't even found the island yet. So very well. You may settle there. And here we have a quest of some kind. Hand and heart. Representatives of your city's collegia, guilds, gather at your villa to debate. Farmers and artisans claim that reduced taxes will lead to higher production of goods and food. The priests and tutors who receive the most tax revenue claim that the gods and academic knowledge are responsible for successful production. What pursuits do you favor? We could subsidize trade and labor, subsidize religion and education, or fund both. Well, I think we probably want to prioritize free markets, so we subsidize trade and labor. And that's going to give us 20% more trade revenue. So that's probably a good thing. That lasts for 4 hours. So it's not permanent. Now, we can pick a patron deity for High Isle. I'm thinking here we will pick Minerva, and she will give us a bonus for, looks like, anything involving the making of clothing. We can always change it later. But we picked Ceres for the first 2 islands, so kind of makes sense to maybe pick someone else for this one. You can create trade routes to move goods automatically. Well, good point. That being said, I never actually looked at this screen before. Really is beautiful. I love the way the map looks. It's so polished and elegant. What's wrong with this trade route? Goods cannot be unloaded because the storage is full. All right, that's all right. Well, anyways, there we have it. Island number 3. Suppose next we will continue to work on expanding our population here in Cyrodiil and see about creating a military. Unfortunately, it looks like something bad has happened here, but that's all right. You have to always keep an eye out for damaged buildings. Otherwise, you can wind up in a bit of trouble. We also have a little bit of a shortage of workers, it looks like. Probably because they were protesting. I think I saw that they were protesting. We might need to spend some time trying to make sure that our happiness levels are high enough. It seems that these citizens are a bit unhappy because they don't like the soap maker, and they don't like the city status. Now, I don't know what the city status really means, but appears to be up here. I don't know if, like, a bigger city makes people more or less happy. No, so there we go. More population increases the city status. Higher city statuses reduce happiness, health, and fire safety, but increase belief, knowledge, and prestige. So there you have it. The bigger the city gets, the more we'll have to worry about happiness by creating extra things to make people happy, because, you know, cities come with certain benefits, but if you don't have great amenities, then people get frustrated because cities also come with certain problems. That's actually a really excellent and eloquent way to represent how progress comes at a cost all the time. Yet another simple example of how the common mechanics underlying how Anno functions as a game are a big part of why the franchise feels so meaningful and so influential. The other thing that's really notable is when you look at just, you know, how the world feels alive. Like if you look around, you see all of these people kind of, you know, going about their lives, and it feels very alive. It feels very inhabited. We see people going in and out of their houses, down the streets, talking to each other, doing all this stuff. But they're just animations. It's not really a true simulation where every single agent is continually tracked everywhere. And that makes a significant break from games like City Skylines or other colony management games where values aren't simulated or approximated. They're individually calculated at an agentic level. And as amazing as that sounds, it's actually more eloquent when you can focus on the meta of the game. You're just looking at it at a high level and kind of taking in the big picture view, not necessarily worrying about individually calculating every single detail. And that's part of why a game like this can look really good without having the simulation slowdown problems that some other games do have. Anyways, that'll be it. And, you know, we will be back with more Anno 117 in the future, but for now, we are going to call it a wrap for this weekend night. And wherever you find yourself, as always, thank you very much for watching.